Hello. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. We're going to go through some lighting and some of the lights that I use in the studio. They'll all be kind of budget friendly. They're all Godox lights because they're very budget friendly to use, especially when you're starting your journey as a photographer. You don't want to be spending thousands upon thousands of lights when you're still learning your craft. So these are all very budget friendly for the most part. Some are a little bit more expensive than others, but we'll go through each one and talk about what I use them for and how I use them. So the first lights we're going to talk about are the Speedlights. These are Godox ones, so there are two that I use predominantly. This is a TT600. This is about £60, I think, from Amazon. Not that expensive. Hot shoe is broken on it though, if you can see that, but that's because it fell out of my bag and dropped to the floor. But I don't usually use it on the mount anyway. I tend to use it in a bracket, but it's easily, you can replace those. You can get that part for like 20 quid and just replace it and take it out. So fairly easy light to use if you're just getting into using lights. This is a good speed light to have. Comes with, let's see, a few little accessories, a few little gels that you can kind of stick over the top or like have an elastic band over the top. They're pretty good to use. Flash range is like full power to 1/128th. So fairly decent range of lighting, supports high speed sync and TTL as well. And good for, I would say, event photography. I don't do much event photography, but I do some now. And this has come in handy if I'm trying a certain look, if I'm trying to not really just use room lighting, but just add this in or do things like shutter drag and have a flash kind of pop so you get those light trails and things like that. This is really good for that. In the studio, I will tend to use this as something to highlight a part of the shot. So like get some modifiers over it with like a soft silicone gel or a snoot or something like that, and it's pretty handy for that, for highlighting details within a shot other than your main light. Sometimes use this for putting in a strip box and having it as a sort of eye light shot as well. If I'm not using a reflector and we want a good clean sort of headshot, this is a really good light to kind of have for that. On location, I've used it a couple of times. I've used it in like a cocktail shoot where we were doing very sort of stylized shots and we wanted like bare flash kind of, you know, lighting up and showing really sort of contrasting shadows, so it was really good for that. It does take 4 AAA batteries, so they can be expensive because you will not get that many full range or full power shots out of this. You'll get a fair amount, but it probably, if you're shooting all day, bring some spare batteries because it's not going to last. You can upgrade to the Godox V1, which is a lithium ion battery with a round head. It's a little bit more expensive. You're talking sort of 250 quid for that. So if you're looking to start with a flash, or you just need a quick basic flash for getting you out of a pinch, this is a really good one. Usually these have about 60 to 100 watts of power. This is probably down towards the 60 side because it's not that expensive, but that's a good one to use if you're just starting out. We've then got the TT685. These are all for Sony, by the way, so they have the Sony hot shoe kind of mount, just so that you can control them with the Sony. Very similar to the TT600, just a little bit more power. The battery tends to last a little longer, even though they are all, again, AA batteries. I just find these two together work quite well if you're just doing a quick sort of off-site shoot or you're just doing something to highlight things. These work pretty well, and they all obviously work off each other, and they work off the Godox remote, which we'll get into last as well, and how you can control them all, you know, through there. So they're the two sort of low-end ones. The TT685, by the way, was about 150 quid. It was a bit more. I will caveat this video by saying I'm not the most technical person when it comes to flashes. I just know what works for me, and the way I use them seems to be fine, and I'm not very technical. I don't know too much of the really in-depth detail about them, but what I do know is these work and I kind of stand by them, and probably will upgrade eventually, but right now there's no need to because they do everything I need them to do. So the next lights are these ones. These are a little bit more expensive. These are the AD200 Pro. Now these are Obviously 200 watts of power, very good for indoor, very good for outdoor as well. They go up to like high speed sync of like, you could go up to like 1/8000th of a second on your camera with the high speed sync on these. Obviously that will reduce the power of them because you're extending your sort of camera's sync speed, but they still do a very good job. So these go from like 1 or full power, so 1/1 to 1/256th of a second, so very low light. But I like these, they're very good to mount. You can have a little mount on there. They're lithium ion battery as well, so the batteries do last a very long time. Don't really have to charge them that much, and you get quite a lot of full power charge cycles. What's great about these is when they come in the pack, this head comes off and you can replace it with a bulb head instead. So this whole thing comes out and you can replace it with that. So I have 2 of these flashes because they work really well together and they were a good investment for the studio. I tend to shoot more with the Fresnel head on under that big umbrella. It's kind of a bit of the signature shot that we do in the studio because it just works and it fills that umbrella really well. And I like the color temperature it gives me as well from the Fresnel head. So these are really good. A little bit more than the others, but I find that they're well worth the money and haven't let me down yet, touch wood. What is great about these is you can get a bracket, which is this one here. This is the Godox AD B2 bracket. And what the great thing about these flashes is, if you take the bulbs off and then the heads, they slot into the back of this basically. They will fit into the back of here, either side. You can then put these on either the same group on your flash trigger, or you can, I mean, don't really need to control them individually, because the idea what you're doing with this is you're making it so they're one light. So this bracket essentially turns 2 200 watt lights into one 400 watt light on a bracket with an umbrella mount. If we put them on the same, see, so these are like 1/8 power, and they do have both, they both then light up these modeling lamps. So these are really good to use out and about. They're good to use outdoor if you need a lot of power. So I have used these recently with a shot of someone where we were using outside and we wanted to get some good power and keep the flash further away from him and power it towards him. So these 2 are definitely worth an investment, and this bracket was like £60, I think. So it's definitely worth having one. Even if you don't find you use it that much, there'll always be a minute where you're like, oh, I could do with some more power, and this will solve that problem basically. So that's the AD200s. And then the more recent one I bought is this Godox SK400. So this is what I predominantly use in the studio because it's wired in, so it's not battery powered like everything else is. It's literally on power. 400 watt light with 150 watt modeling lamp. It gets very, very hot. I don't know if you can see, but that's where it's caught the umbrella. So there's a little hole in that umbrella at the minute, which I'll have to replace. So do be careful, don't touch it, because it will burn you. Very good modeling lamp on this. You can have like 2 sides of it, but very, very good modeling lamp to use in your studio. This power range goes from 1 full power, so 1/1, down to 1/16. So it's not the biggest power range, but for studio stuff, 1/16 works perfect for the type of shots I like to do anyway. So nice and bright and that kind of thing. Price wise, it wasn't that much. It's about £150, so very budget friendly if you want a good studio light to work with and use in your studio. The caveat is obviously it has to be plugged in, but in here that's not a problem. There's lots of plug sockets all around the studio, so it doesn't really matter where we are, we can use that quite well. And then the trigger is this is the Godox XPro S. I think it was about £50. It's not that much, but you can pretty much control up to like 5 lights on this. There's only 2 on here at the minute. You can control all the modeling lights in one button. So if all your lights have a modeling lamp on, you can turn those on. You can switch the high speed sync on, control all of the power from this as well. So this is probably the main bit of kit you would need to get everything working properly. What's really great about it is when you put it on the camera, if you're at your camera settings of like, I like to shoot in the studio maybe like f6 or f5.6, ISO 100 usually, and then 1/250th of a second. Obviously in camera, when you're looking through there, that's going to be completely black. Put this on and it gives you the live view, so you can see what it is that you're looking at, and you can see your subject and focus and fire shots away and all that kind of thing. Battery lasts quite a long time. I've had this maybe 2 and a bit years, and I've changed the batteries once because they last quite a while, and it's only 2 AA batteries. So there is a new version of this out that's like a little fancy touchscreen thing, but again, this works fine for me and what I want to do. You can control all the lights at once, so like how we have the 8200s, if they're both in the bracket, you can actually select to control all of the group if they were on different ones and change them so it's all the same, rather than individually change them to match. So yeah, that's the lighting. It's not, I'll be honest, it's not fancy, it's not the most technical, it's not, certainly not the most expensive, but it works, and it works for me, and it works for the stuff that we get in here, and yeah, I'm really happy with it. I've not really felt any need to upgrade anything just yet. This was the latest flash I bought, the 400, because I just wanted something that I could rely on power wise if we're shooting all day, that I don't have to think that battery might go soon and have to change it out or charge it, and it can just sort of stay attached to a light stand or stay inside that big umbrella behind us and do what it needs to do. So definitely recommend Godox. Obviously I'm not sponsored by Godox, but if you are watching, do reach out because I use a lot of your stuff. And that's it. I'll put you some examples up of the shots we've done with each light along the way, and I'll link them in the descriptions below. And yeah, see you in the next one.